What will my legacy be?
Okay. Yes, I'm Aon Swinton, and I've lived in Croydon a number of years. I do feel an affinity to Croydon in many ways. My family and I originate from Jamaica, and we moved to Croydon from Battersea in the early 1960s. So most of my schooling has been over here in England.
My name is Patricia. I live in Croydon. I was born in Jamaica, came here as a child, lived in Nottingham, moved from Nottingham to Croydon at the age of 24. So I've been here quite a while. That's my connection to Croydon.
My name is Marie Williams, and I'm from Jamaica, born in a place called Kingston. I have lived in Croydon for the past 27 years. Croydon is the second place I came when I first came to this country in 1988. So I'm connected to Croydon that I'm living here, and although I've never worked in Croydon, but I do enjoy the things that Croydon has to offer.
My name is Heather Daffy, and I live in Croydon. I'm originally from Barbados. My parents are Bajan, and I'm part of the Windrush tradition, or the Windrush legacy. After graduating and finishing some training, I moved to Croydon, and I've been here ever since, and that's about 30 years ago.
My name is George Blackwood. I was born in Jamaica, and I came to this country, late 40s. My connection with Croydon isn't a physical one. I've never lived here, but I've always visited Croydon, particularly in the earlier years. I always visited the Fairfield halls, and it may have been pop concerts and a number of orchestral concerts I've always been to.
Hello, my name is Pauline Hamilton Black, and I come from Jamaica, which is in the West Indies. And that was way back in the 60s, 64 actually, when I came to this country.
I'm a member of the Association of Jamaicans UK Trust. It's a national charity, and it has an active branch in Croydon. It was formed in the 60s to help look after the welfare of Jamaicans and to help them with problems and to help them socialise and to help them financially. Anyway, we're active in Croydon, and when we received information from one of the administrators of Talawa regarding this project, it seemed a great opportunity to get involved with and to have some of our stories told.
Well, I was asked to come along, and I thought I'll come along and see. I organise a coffee morning for the, not just for older generation, for all age. What's special about the coffee morning is to see people happy.
So this project awakened us in many ways, because it became apparent to some of us that this was not going to be a straightforward anthology of stirring stories, but it posed questions of how was this archive going to be built, and how were they going to get the stories out of us? And then when we actually met the people in the workshop, we were wondering who are these talented thespians, and how were they looking at the world in the way that they were, because the methods and the way the sessions were run, it was very different to some of us, and it was challenging, but it was also fun. But there was also another side of it. It had something, because one would think about it. One would say nothing in particular to anybody else in the group. You'd come back, and then somebody would raise that thing that you were thinking on. So it was as if there was a spirit that was transcending the group. And of course there was learning too about Croydon artistes who we had not known so much about before, people who were under our noses, like Samuel Coleridge Taylor. I went to school in South Norwood. I passed to college nearly every day of my schooling, but nothing made me want to even investigate who that person was. Dare I say, I didn't even realise he was black.
I think it's important to capture black stories because we don't capture them enough. You know, I think there is a dire lack of black stories, not just in Croydon, but in the country in general. It feels as if, when I think of the Windrush legacy, I guess that most of us came here not through our own calling, but we were invited to come here. And it's almost as if we arrive from Mars, as if we don't have a beginning, you know. And of course we have a beginning, and that beginning for most of us is in the Caribbean. You know, most of the Caribbean people, or people from Africa, or people from different parts of the world, but particularly for black people, that's important, that we know what our roots are, that it's important for our children because they need to have a sense of pride, a sense of who they are. It's important for us ourselves. You know, it's linked to our identity. Who are we? And do we accept the notion that we don't have a history? We've been told so many times that we don't have a history. We came, you know, we came from nowhere. And it's important also for the community. You know, our contribution to the community, our contribution as teachers, as nurses, as lawyers. These are all important roles that we take on. And I think telling our stories is important for that sense of identity, which I think everyone needs.
Traditionally, the Caribbean people and African people, they told a lot of stories. They told their stories, you know, in different forms. They would gather around a tree, perhaps. They would gather somewhere, and the whole community would come together. And enslaved people too, they too told their stories. For example, they told their stories because that was the only way of really giving an account of what they experienced. Some of the things they wouldn't do is dare to tell other people's story or even record their own stories, but telling their stories was the only freedom that they had. You know, you can answer questions through stories, you can challenge stereotypes, and it's a way again of bringing people together, communities, that powerful tool that brings communities together. And instead of making judgments, we can learn from other stories so that we don't make that mistake of, you know, assuming things about cultures and about people.
I like to see myself as a storyteller. I'm particularly interested in actually oral storytelling. You know, for me, I think that's been our tradition, and I see myself, I guess I would like to see myself as a wise old person who carries on that tradition, the tradition of storytelling. I think that's really important.
This poem I'm going to share came about in one of our learning sessions. We were asked to write about our home, whether we considered Croydon our home or where we were from originally. So I decided to write about my home in Jamaica, and it's entitled Engulfed in Nostalgia. Sounds I have recorded in my mind, the boof of the breadfruit falling from the tree, dogs howling in harmony. The aroma of chicken fried in saturated fat, pimento berries as they dry in the summer sun, looking forward to the spice-filled Easter bun. The taste of sugar-laced lemonade with ice dancing in the glass, higglers selling their wares, buyers purchasing them fast. Caressing the shame old lady as it closes its gentle leaves, marveling at Mother Nature that never ever deceives. Passengers traveling on the minibus, bumping up and down, enjoying their adventure going from town to town. White sandy beaches where tourists bask in the summer sun, the old and young giggling, having so much fun. School children reciting poetry by poets unknown, locals going down to Jamintel, making international calls by telephone. Politicians campaigning, making promises they can't fulfill, swallowing a Fensic tablet when I'm feeling ill. Dramatic fainting at funerals, bawling out loud, bring the smelling salts, may the head hit the ground. Now as I look back with nostalgia, with love and yearning for the past, my dear sweet island Jamaica, where memories will always last.
Bangles are worn by quite a large number of African tribes. You know, they were worn, they weren't naturally silver, they were just something that was meant to protect you from evil spirits. So there's a reason behind them. But this tradition was carried over to the Caribbean and North America, where silver was mined in those areas. There are silver mines in Trinidad. There was mining from the South Americas. So silver became a very precious metal. And most West Indians, you will find, will be wearing a silver bangle. And they're worn to protect you against evil spirits.
Tailoring has never been really, for whatever reason, although I did it and earned, made a living and what have you from it, but I was never really comfortable with it. So, and always wanted to be an electrician. Getting the job wasn't possible, so the first thing you had to get was a union card. Well, many years ago, I don't know if it still continues, but at Hyde Park Corner, there was an area known as Speaker's Corner, which was every Sunday. So whilst I was standing there, a guy came up to me and said, which company do you work for? So I said, actually, I don't work for anyone, I'm not an electrician, but I'd love to become one. He sponsored me, I got the ticket, and immediately I went away and got a job in perhaps one of the 3 leading electrical contractors, and the rest is history.
Oh, yeah. So you want it this way or this way? This way?
That way.
This is a christening gown where my granddaughter was christened in Croydon, not far from Reeves Corner. So that's why I'm really connected to Croydon. And this is a christening gown when she got christened on that day. And this was many, many years ago. So I would say this is a legacy.
My legacy would be from my childhood days, from my early days in coming to this country when I was about 15. How am I to start a new school at 15? What on earth am I going to learn or catch up with? Especially since that I'm coming from a different culture, a different background, a different climate, different language, if you like, and different lifestyle. So it was very difficult. So I had to get over all those barriers to be able to fit in, and still couldn't. I learned to work with the system, or beat the system, if you like. So I had to, in the winter time, it was okay in the summertime, but in the winter time, we had playtime, break time, after lunch or so, we had to go outside into the playground. And this playground was cold. It was sometimes covered in frost or covered in snow. And you're telling someone who's just come from a 90-degree climate to play in that, and without a coat. I thought, wow, And I first used to go back into the building, sneaked into the building, hide behind huge curtains, you know. They used to find me because my feet were left out, so they could see little feet, my little feet behind the curtain. And I used to hide in the toilets, anywhere I could find that I could hide. And they used to have girls patrolling. And I said to them, who are you? What do you do? And they explained to me what it's all about. You can't stay here. We're just here to make sure. Otherwise, the whole building will be full of children, which we don't want. So I said, well, tell me, how do you become, they used to be, call them prefects in those days. So I said, how do you become a prefect? So they said, you have to be good. You have to maintain that behavior. Make sure that you set examples. With my background and the way I had to behave in class, I can be a role model for that. So I went home and I thought about it, and I thought of ways that I could do it. I even brought in Christmas cards for the teacher with her name all printed over it. And so I became gradually in the good books, and then I was voted in to be a prefect. After a while I thought, well, there's a good side to this, but there's also a downside. I'm tired of walking around. I'm on my feet all recessed. They're sitting, they're going to the tuck shop, they're sitting down, having a laugh with their friends, but I'm missing all that. But I still won't give up the warmth. So I got into being a librarian. And I thought, yes. So I've got all 3 badges now. And there's no, I can either be out there being a prefect, or I can get into the library and be a librarian, whatever I want to do. So the world was my oyster.
Twice I nearly died in Croydon, but was eased back to health by angels in Mayday, black and white, who tended me when needed, day and night, angels unsung. What too of the preachers, educators, pastors, brethren and compatriots, artists and sound men, friendly shopkeepers, again black and white, all who have positively impacted our lives. Godly men like Bishop Ramsey, Elder Burke, staff and other nurses aplenty, all now past and gone, but their legacy lives on in you and me.
Now she's a granddaughter. She's 6 years old and she's got a 5-year-old brother. She never says she can't do anything. You never hear her at any time says, Grandad, oh, I can't do that. But anyway, she got to Jamaica, and the first thing when she looked at the pool, she said, Grandad, I can swim. Well, I know my granddaughter can't swim, but as I said, I've learned never to tell her she can't do anything. She then, and her brother, they both got in the pool. It was quite shallow, so they were there walking on their hands and feet. But they were swimming, so great. Anyway, we thought, well, the best thing to do is to get her those rubber rings, you know, or arm rings. The second day she got in the water with these, and then she realized that her upper body would float. And within 3 days, she was doing it on her own. And then a couple of days before we left, she said, Grandad, can I take my armbands? She took them off when she was swimming. And that's her. And then she also said to our father, Dad, you know what I want to be when I grow up? I want to be an engineer.
Like a granddad?
Well, I can see in her a great deal of me. I would like, as my legacy, to instill in black people a self-confidence, or in other words, a self-belief, and to realize that they are responsible and capable of making their own decisions without any prompt or without any help. Because if I were to sit at home and simply prayed for something, it would never happen. So therefore, if I have to go out and do it, then I deserve the credit.
Forget about other people. Take it, go from what moves you from within your heart, what you're passionate about, what you like to see happen. Learn from the elders too. Learn from the elders, because they too have their stories. And people who we think are, might be ignorant or they don't know anything, learn from them. Because I think of that little line from that poem, Desiderata, even the dull, even the ignorant, they too have their stories. I want them to go out there and not let people put them in a box to say, oh, you can't do this because of the color of your skin or because of, maybe how you look. I want children to be confident and to really, young people to go out there and do things. Let their names be seen in the headlines, because I remember Nat King Cole as a little boy. He always dreamt of his name in the headlines outside of a theater, and that was what I want young people to do. Have that dream, pursue that dream, believe in themselves, and anything at all is possible. Don't let others tell you what you can and can't do.
This toast goes out to the streets of Little Manhattan and the valleys that lead to the heart of a community who stay for a good time and those who settle for a lifetime. To the African Caribbean laureate who, like me, urges us to look at this city through different eyes. To the South Asian uncle who trumpeteers bargains at the top of his lungs to feed the families of every ethnic denomination you could imagine. There's a familiarity in this beat of voices and trolleys, tiny footsteps and melodies in ears that can be picked up in the distance. The tune to the song is one that reminds you that you belong somewhere at least, especially when home can't be reached by foot or boat or car or train. After taking in the hummings and the who's who's of Croydon, the journey to your nomad bed feels less isolating and a little less of a reminder that you belong everywhere and nowhere at once. Because the people make Croydon, where elderly ladies who fall 1 pint in are stunted to the floor, soon to be nurtured by a kiss on the cheek from an unsuspecting stranger. Let's raise a toast to the childhood lessons passed on through generations so they do not remain in pageless books, spoken from wiser lips into hearts and history. Here, tradition is held sacred in the circles of fire we sit around in our hearts, because there is something here in this eerie yet airy faraway place that feels like home. At the bottom of a field lies a cube. In the middle of a circle lies a collective beating heart of 10, sometimes 11, sometimes 12 of the best people you will ever meet. Here for a good time, making memories and sharing stories and legacies that will last for a lifetime. Here where the people make the city, a city that belongs to us all. Here in Croydon, our Croydon.